Stewart Brand, who was born in 1938, is an American project developer and author. He studied biology at Stanford University and served in the Army as an infantry officer. Later, he studied design, photography, and participated in a scientific study of then-legal LSD. Since 1982, he has been living in a working 20 meters long tugboat with his wife. He has founded, co-founded, organized, and co-organized many diverse projects, some of which are as follows. He was the founder and publisher of the original Whole Earth catalog, which Steve Jobs likened to a paperback version of Google 35 years before Google itself came along. In 1973, he designed and organized the New Games tournament. Brand co-organized the first Hackers Conference in 1984. In 1988, he co-founded the Global Business Network. He is the president of the Long Now Foundation, which has Brian Eno as a board of director. A Sagittarius. How Buildings Learn was published in 1994. Buildings are mostly perceived as static constructs since it is not easy to perceive at once the changes they go through over the years. Brand explores this overlooked time dimension of buildings, thinking of them as merely artworks that can be finished, or commodities that need to be laced with fashion, and therefore trying to conceal the mess they actually are, steers us from their reality. The word building contains the double reality. It means both the action of the verb build and that which is built, both verb and noun, both the action and the result. Whereas architecture may strive to be permanent, a building is always building and rebuilding. The idea is crystalline, the fact fluid. Could the idea be revised to match the fact? Brand says no building adapts well. They are designed, budgeted, financed, constructed, maintained, taxed and regulated not to. But they adapt anyway, however poorly, because the usages in and around them constantly change. Aging is a valued quality in buildings, but decay is considered too much and deathly, and new buildings get forced to ripen quickly. Over 50 years, the changes within a building cost 3 times more than the original building. Brand defines 6 layers of a building. Site is almost eternal. Structure lasts around 30 to 300 years. Skin lasts around 20 years. Services wear out or obsolete every 7 to 15 years. Space plan can change every 3 years or so, but exceptionally quiet houses may last around 30 years. Stuff frequently. Because of the different rates of change of its components, a building is always tearing itself apart. The quicker components provide originality and challenge, and the slow ones provide continuity and constraint. While all buildings change with time, only some improve. Age plus adaptability is what makes a building come to be loved. Brand defines 2 separate types of buildings. The low road is the low-rent, styleless, high-turnover type of building, where a lot of creativity easily takes place because of the freedom it provides. The high-road buildings receive continuous care over time, have enormous character of their own. These are precisely the 2 principal strategies of biological populations: the opportunist versus the preserver, dandelions and oaks. Yet he says, most buildings have no road virtues, bashing the fashionable architecture. When clothing goes out of fashion, you can discard it, but with a building, it is months of glory, years of shame. And he finds the culprit in architectural photography, which is used often now to decide the value of a building, which totally disregards the time dimension of building. I would like to add context in a broad sense and give the example of Niemeyer's Niterói Art Museum, which also does photograph well, but the wind created underneath it by its structure in a scorching hot Brazilian day is not capturable by photography. He says we need to honor buildings that are loved rather than merely admired. Admiration is from a distance. Love is up close and cumulative. Every building leads 3 contradictory lives as habitat, as property, and as a component of the surrounding community. And the lesson of realty laced with reality is really, get rich slow. To ensure a building's longevity, protect it from markets and water, and feed it money. But too much of it disrupts its continuity and integrity, and too little of it may cause irreversible decay. Solid construction that would require little maintenance is often expensive, and preventive maintenance is boring. So both are unpopular, Brand says. To this, I would like to add that even inexpensive measures that architects propose to diminish later maintenance needs are usually viewed as redundant. In the excitement and heat and expense of building, they seem as concerns of a too distant future. The romance of maintenance is that it has none. Its joys are quite ones. There is a certain high calling in the steady tending to a ship, to a garden, to a building. One is participating physically in a deep, long life. Brand quotes Sim van der Ren, "Everyone who can afford it wants their home to be a nightclub big enough to entertain and impress everybody they know." Also saying that this extrovert fantasy about home often collides with the introvert reality of home, which needs to provide the familiar, the comfortable sanctuary. Talking about ecopoiesis, the process of a system making a home for itself, Brand says the dwellers in the dwelling need to shape and reshape themselves to each other until there is a tolerable fit. This requires time and money, which are seldom taken into account. System theorist Herbert Simons coined terms satisficing, a combination of satisfying and suffering, refers to reducing problems just enough as opposed to fully solving them or optimizing thoroughly. It is precisely how evolution and adaptation operate in nature. Brand says you cannot predict or control adaptivity, you can only make room for it. Programming is largely about taking into consideration the immediate occupants of a building. However, using only this information excludes the probable collection of future uses of the building, and becomes nearsighted. The more adapted an organism to present conditions, the less adaptable it can be to unknown future conditions. Scenario planning, on the other hand, focuses on a deeper future, embracing diverse possibilities. The trick is to frame the building question in a larger context, so instead of leaping to, "we need a bigger building," really explore the more general problem, "we need to handle our growth." Similar in analogy to historical preservation, a future preservation. A building is not something you finish, it is something you start, and building users need to be involved in the evolving of it, as well as accustomed to doing its maintenance instead of being its passive victims. And architects need to step from being only artists of space to artists of time. Post-occupancy evaluation is also invaluable in this regard, as well as in better scenario developing. And obviously understanding that spacing out the design and construction work over time is a healthier approach, rather than focusing on creating one perfect edifice for photographing that will soon be not so perfect. As in Ways of Being, a building is a living thing, as Brand demonstrates in his book, and you can dress the baby all you like, but if proper care is not taken and healthy interaction is not allowed, malfunctions will arise. What matures authentically over time is not replicable by means that override time, although attempts are forever made. The beingness and time dimension of architecture do not escape decent architects, yet as architects are forced to adapt to market expectations. A monologue is not healthy, and books such as these are invaluable for a dialogue instead.